Hi everyone, Happy New Year! Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Emergence Show. I'm Nico Farr, your host, and I have Philip Strickland with me as our co-host. And we talk about different innovations in emerging tech and immersive experiences, and how brands and tech companies can incorporate these solutions to enhance the user experience. And we talked about various aspects of storytelling and engagement options that you have in e-commerce or immersive type of commerce solutions. But we thought we dedicate an episode just talking about a fascinating solution to enhance e-commerce and immersive commerce, and that is virtual try-ons. And this topic is very important to us specifically because, as we had our journey in the commerce solutions, especially retail tech solutions around fashion and beauty, we realized that there is so much opportunity for providing these experiences of like being in the store, but at the convenience of e-commerce. And so we had a company previously called Plurnier that we were creating all sorts of technologies, both for beauty and fashion. So Philip is more on the tech side and has been building these different computer vision, AI, machine learning tools. So he will be covering more on the tech innovation since we kind of left off that technology. And I will talk about various side of business and marketing aspect of it. What are the benefits? What are the companies that are doing it and how well they're doing it? To what are some of the challenges and limitations of this technology? And we will both talk about how these things are improving rapidly and where we're heading, and what are some of the different takeaways and important points for you guys to keep in mind as you are adopting the solutions, both from just you using as a consumer, or if you are providing it to your audience. So let's get started on this. I'm very excited. So what is the benefit of virtual try-on? Just we're quickly going to go through it. I think most of you already know when we are shopping online, it is really hard to imagine what the item is going to look or feel when we are just looking at it on a 2D screen. Or even if in the metaverse, it's a little bit better. You can see the 3D asset of the item, but it's really not the feeling you will get when you are immersed in it. And so the idea of virtual try-on, whether you're applying it for furniture or clothing or accessories or makeup or glasses, all of these, you're just gonna have this experience as if you were in the physical store and trying the item. Or for the furniture would be like as if I have the item in my house and I can see how it fits, how it looks in the environment. Ideally we wanted to also cover fitting, but at this point most of the solutions are around look versus fit. And we can briefly talk about how the fitting technology is going, but most of these are around, most of the virtual try-on solutions are currently about how things look. So if you think about the example of like when you hold an item in front of you, but not you're really putting it on, that is where it originated, and then it has gotten better and better. So the overall goal of, or the benefit, is this extra layer of confidence that you get when you're shopping online. And you can get some level of proximity to what you will experience in a store. Now, obviously, it's a spectrum. Some are doing it really well, some are still working on it. And when you have this confidence, when you provide that confidence to the customer, the shopping becomes easier. So the conversion rates are going to go up, the returns are going to go down. And for me personally, being very environmentally conscious, First of all, like purchasing always is not necessarily what I want to do, and there's so many ways, like you can use digital fashion, and so virtual try-ons is a great use case. It's great use cases also in digital fashion, which we love, at the Fashion DAO. And so with this technology, you can either try on a physical item virtually, or you can try on or put on a digital fashion item, or it could be a furniture or other things. So overall, those are the benefits for the e-commerce retail solutions. And then, the overall personalization is another aspect. More and more users want to, know more specifically how things work for them rather than what is generally the product looking like. So this idea of personalization increases the engagement and this interaction and, activity that user does. Provides more commitment into the purchase. The more they engage with your brand, the higher the chance that they will be committed to the purchase. And so the other thing is, like, especially for the Gen Z, this is very important. They're already in the gaming space. They're already using the skins. A lot of brands are already starting to sell items on games and metaverses, and so these are all opportunities to sell either digital or both digital and physical through these experiences. And the other use case that we talked about, like the digital fashion, which could apply to glasses, accessories, and everything, can be also used on calls like this. You can do Zoom calls or other virtual experiences, like metaverse experiences, but without actually having to like change your physical outfit or asset that you have. So that's the overall perspective of what virtual try-ons are, which I think most of you are already pretty familiar, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. And there are various types of virtual try-ons, as we just talked about. So there is AR, augmented reality, which basically is kind of overlaying an item on top of your image or video. And it works with your camera being on. And examples of that is like DressX, a great digital fashion marketplace. There is 010, another great AR try-on that is also very much more about digital fashion, but they've also had partnerships with Tommy and Tommy Hilfiger and Coach and many others. So there, and the other very famous example is the Snapchat. So we have all used the Snapchat at some point, and I know it's mostly for Gen Z, but it's a really good example of how AR can be fun. And they've been doing that for quite some time. Then they acquired a company that we have been closely following called Forma. And Forma was really good at their technology. They were doing really beautiful fitting of garments, which we will talk about the technology a bit more later, but they were basically doing all this try-ons, less AR, more computer vision. And then with Snap acquiring them, now Snap opened up this opportunity. Rather than companies working one-on-one with Forma, now they can work with the Snap. And as far as I know, it's free. You just need to have your assets ready. And it's a pretty good accessible way for brands to use, and Farfetch has adopted that. And the challenges again with AR is a little, we will talk about the challenges more, but it's not as realistic as computer vision. And so that's one way to of the use cases of AR for virtual try-on. With the computer vision, you're morphing the item on the person's body. And so with that, there are pros and cons. On one hand, you can say that it's not like if I'm wearing like long sleeves and I'm trying on a short sleeves in AR, you're not gonna remove that item, but with computer vision, they're gonna remove the item underneath and put this new thing on. So it seems more realistic in some ways. However, the way that they stretch the item and morph it and all those things, they may be fine from the engineering perspective, but when we showed it to a lot of very experts in the fashion space and traditional fashion space, they necessarily wouldn't appreciate as much because those little important factors that are important about how the garment drips on the body and all those stretch factors that go into different types of fabric that you're using, all of those considerations haven't necessarily haven't been communicated with the engineering teams that have been working on it. Now, Philip will go deeper into what the state of technology is right now, but that was in general a common challenge of computer vision solutions around virtual try-ons. And the way consumers can access these are typically through brands' website or e-commerce marketplaces, and sometimes it's limited to the app that a company has, a brand has. And we will show you some examples of that, but I want to kind of quickly touch on what are some of the companies that are doing it, and how this has progressed. And I would love to hear comments. If you guys have, please feel free to put in the chat in the comment section, and we can see them and address any point. So the other than the examples that I mentioned, in the beauty space, we have seen a lot of adoption of virtual try-ons. Sephora is, my favorite example. They have been very active in adopting new technologies, and they have done it very quickly and very well. And specifically with the makeup try-ons, we have the lipstick, we have the eye, we have different things that you can do. And Sephora is one example of that. Elf Cosmetics is another one. Elf partnered with Google, and Google partnered with other companies like Perfect Corp, which I was showing the example of Perfect Corp. But Perfect Corp actually started back in 2014 in Taiwan, and then they brought in the technology around the time that we were working on it, and they went really well with partnering with different brands and enterprise companies. And now they have opened it up to even a smaller brands in a subscription basis, and they have gone public. So really good job on that front. And what these beauty companies are doing is that they use the API of Perfect Corp. And in Elf's case, they partner with Google, which operates YouTube, and they are doing paid ads. And they will show the items, the new products that they have on various influencers, and kind of promote how things, how different lipstick and other products are being shown. And that's a really good example. I think I should at this point kind of show you guys an example of that. So let me share my screen and give you that view. Philip, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I really want to get I'd like to really get into discussion of the technical aspects and how all of this is really coming together and where the state of art is. But let's see where the commercial applications are.
Yeah, so as you can see, a demo on Perfect Corp. You guys can see my screen? Yeah, so as you can see, it's pretty good, pretty accurate in a sense. And if I can move this up, maximize it. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty good. It seems even a lot more accurate than what I see on Zoom. So this is great. And then let's look at like another color. Pretty good. It feels so real to me. And I have been trying different solutions. They have been one of the best. Now we can look at like blushes. why do you need to put on real makeup and ruin your skin if you have this? So these are very interesting. Let's try some eyeshadow. Let's see how this works. It's pretty mild, but yeah, it's pretty good. And then let's look at some foundation. And Perfect Corp has an app that you guys can download and just try it on if you haven't already. They have an app called YouCam Makeup. So they originally started B2C, and they did a really great job with the B2C. They got so much data because a lot of this, as we will talk about in a bit, is about data and training on various data. And when they started originally, it was nothing necessarily enterprise focused. It was more just let's provide the best experience for the end users and take it from there. And so they made the experience so fun. I think even if you try it now, you're going to see how fun and interactive the experience is. And so with that, they basically gathered a lot of data, and hopefully with consent of the user. And then from that, they trained the model and they got it better and better, which then eventually led to having this robust program that now they're offering it to all companies. Another example they have really expanded their solutions. Now they're doing also all sorts of glasses, and we'll talk about other companies that are doing it as well. But again, you can see that they're doing all sorts of glasses. I know they're doing jewelry, hats, and everything else. So really interesting company to look at if you are looking to incorporate these into your e-commerce solutions. They are one of the best in this space. So that's on the front of some of these makeup and AR examples of makeup and beauty. The other example is, when you are talking about selling really high-end or high-priced items virtually or online, there is a lot of thinking that needs to be done. And so one of the ways to increase the confidence of someone buying a luxury item or making that high price purchase is to provide the virtual try-ons. So the company Baum and Mercier, which is a luxury watch company, they partnered with a company called Haptic Media, and they can provide you the virtual try-on of showing the watch on your wrist, and it's very beautiful and you can see it pretty well and you can move it around. Another example is L'Oreal. Again, in the beauty sector, they actually acquired one of the companies that we were following years ago called Modiface. And this company, as they joined L'Oreal, now they're providing the solution to all to various L'Oreal brands. And from NYX to Maybelline to Urban Decay, and they're providing this now to Instagram Shop. So the partnerships between the brands and social media is another interesting. So in the case of the Snap, it was Snap providing it to brands, but we also see that it could be the other way around. So that's another very interesting use case. And overall, with this experience of social shopping or people wanting to buy in social media where they're already learning and engaging with the brand, is a perfect opportunity for brands to close the loop and make the purchase happen inside the social media. So that's the overall idea of social commerce, and it's already being adopted. Over 55% of social media users have done some sort of, between the ages of 18 to 34, have done at least one purchase through social media. All types of social media. Obviously, TikTok is doing great as well. And so, again, this is a huge opportunity for all of you to think about There are many other companies that have incorporated, but we're just going to talk about some of the very prominent ones. Google is another one that is looking to provide it to more and more companies. And so Google, not this time partnering with another tech company, themselves developed these virtual try-on solutions that are actually using generative AI. And I don't know, Philip, do you want to show that example to us?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm just going to provide a bit more information about it. As far as we know, so far it's limited to the women's top only. And it is basically, they have paid real models. And these models are wearing different items from different brands, not physically, but it's tried on their body. So they're not virtual models, they're real models, but when the companies come up with new products, Google can pretty quickly try on those items, again, women top clothing, for this over these models' bodies. And the other differentiating factor about this specific technology that Google has been used is that they have solved for some of those challenges that I mentioned earlier, like the actual characteristics of the garments are incorporated. So the draping and stretches and stuff like that, as you can see, it's more realistic and fitting to the body.
Let's see something that may have a bit more pattern in it. Yeah, because when you see these examples here, is that first of all, they're tops, so they're only using tops, and
but their models are pretty diverse. I really like it.
Yeah, they're diverse, but you can't upload your own though.
Yes, so it has its own limitations. You know, this technology has been going on for many years, and it's still improving because it's really hard, really, to get it right.
Yeah.
So we have been building it. We know how challenging it is. So again, I think it's a good progress that Google has provided, and there's more to be done, obviously. The other example of companies that have been in this space and doing great work is Farfetch. They have their own, in addition to partnership with Snap, and they have their own app called Wannawear. Wannawear is partnering with different, luxury brands, just a few of them so far, but hopefully we'll expand more. Walmart also acquired a company we were, again, closely following, and we thought they were the best at the time, called Zikit, and an Israeli-based company. And this Zikit also uses computer vision and morphs to your body. And now you can use that on certain Walmart brands on their website. I was trying it on. You have to use their app to do that thing for your body. You can also see it on the models. So they provide both. And the interesting thing about the model for Walmart, based on Zikit, is that it's not limited on one item. You can change the whole website, categories, and basically trying it on more than one item, as if you're really putting on all these clothes. And so even if you're in a physical store, it will take you so long to try on all these other items and really make a decision. So this type of offering that can be quickly populating the website with the way it will look on you makes the purchase so much better and easier. So that's a really good example. And then there are also footwear companies. Viking is a company that has been doing a good job partnering with Adidas, Under Armour, and New Balance. You can see the 3D digital wearable of the footwear on your foot and make a decision on whether you like that or not. So that's a really good example. I also want to mention, one of the not so great examples that we have seen. Xyler is a company that basically the way it's a tech company that partnered with Marks and Spencer, John Lewis, and the way they're doing the technology is a bit different in a sense that, I mean, we don't love it because it's not that realistic. They ask you for a selfie, and then from that selfie, they will put on your head on another model's body. It's kind of funny. What they do, they also ask you about your size measurements and stuff. They also give you a toggle where you can adjust your body dimensions, and then you can basically see the item on a model's body that kind of has been tried to be matching your body. And the way they figure out the color of the skin is based on your facial skin color, that selfie that you uploaded. So my experience was that it's not great, but if you guys want to try it, give it a try. And I was reading the review that someone was saying it's actually very distracting to have to like adjust my body size and dimensions, because I have to become very self-conscious, and I'm like, oh, is my bot this way? Like, what is my dimension really? And if you are to really measure yourself, like, then you don't necessarily have to use all this type of solutions. And it's a very interesting situation, and it's good time, I think, for me to quickly touch on the size solutions too. So there are two general types of size solutions out there. One is based on your uploaded image or your video capture, which actually uses computer vision again to measure you based on different points of your body and a reference point. The other example is looking at the historical data. So, for example, a good example of that is Amazon. I know a lot of other websites have adopted it, but when you purchased a size 6 or 4, whatever, several times and you didn't return it, or if you have purchased certain size and you return it, it kind of gets to learn and gets to know you. And they also look at, if let's say your upper body is size 4, and based on their historical data, what would your lower body size be? And so this type of machine learning based type of solutions, a company that is really advanced or has been the dominant player in this space is called TrueFit. I'm not sure if they're still around, but they used to be very popular in terms of providing to enterprises, and they had really good relationships with different enterprises. So that's on the size recommendation. It's also a challenging one to get it right, but less challenging than Virtual Try-On, because Virtual Try-On is dependent on the subjective feeling of how the garment is. So that's on that front. One other point I want to mention before we move on to tech, and a high-level version of that, is that it's kind of very industry specific, and you have to have industry knowledge to make it right. So a good example in the beauty is that for so long, like the example that I showed you with UCAM, they were matching, like if they were to recommend you a foundation, they would be matching to your immediate image color, and they would tell you, okay, go buy this shade. Then later they realized that, oh, your lighting might not be the best when you took that picture, or your camera was on. So that became one of the challenges of, like, they were not being very accurate with that recommendation of the shade. Then there's this other company called Cult Beauty that started this solution called Matched Me. What they're doing is that they ask for extra information from the customer, like, what's your desired coverage? Do you want full coverage? and all of those things. And then what's the finish that you're looking for? Do you want to have a glowing skin, or you want to have a matte finish? And so what color do you want? Sometimes people want their foundation to be darker than their actual skin. People do that usually during the summer. They want to look more bronzy and tinted. And then in the winter times, they want to be more brighter. So, and like around 70%, 75% of shoppers are looking for the exact match. The rest are going to go lighter or darker. And so having these specific industry insights are very valuable, similar to what we talked about in the fashion side. Like if you don't fully understand what the garment is going to look like when it's stretching, or how it's going to drip on the body and stuff like that, you're not going to have a good outcome. So it's not just tech. You have to have the industry specific information to provide the good solution. And I think this is a very important factor for every company to take away from this. Now we're going to talk about the tech a bit and see what are some of the progresses that have been made and where we're heading.
Yeah. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about actually came forth from this paper here that I'm sharing. Do you see this, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this paper, Image-Based Virtual Try-On Survey by Dan Song et al., came out last month, and it's the first paper that really truly analyzes and puts together and synthesizes the results of all these different models over the years and methods over the years using a standardized methodology, right? So using the same data set, using the same parameters, and they actually tried it on over 300 different individuals to see the results. So to kind of give you a peek under the hood of how this actually works under the, technical wise, is that first, what you see in the outcome is really...
Maybe you want to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, let me zoom in a little bit.
Well, we're not going to get too technical.
Right? But just to give you an idea.
This is just to give you a perspective.
Yeah. And so you have the initial image of the person, then you have the in-shop image, which is the reference image of what you want to put on the person. But under the hood, all these different things are happening, which is actually segmenting, getting the pose of the person to really be able to feed that information into the model in order to output the actual virtual try-on image. What really kicked off this whole field is the seminal paper from 2018, and here's a timeline of all the papers that's come out. So this paper here, Vuitton, was the one that really spearheaded this whole field, and what they did was that prior to this, it was really hard to find a data set, because in order to create a model, you need to have the appropriate data set, but a data set of a person using the same pose with two different clothing items. As you can imagine, that's very difficult to find. So what they did that kicked this all off was to be able to synthesize a data set using pose estimation to be able to take an image of a person, then using that same pose of that person, take an image of something of another piece of clothing item and put it on them. So then now you have that necessary requirement of having two images with two different clothing items of the same person with the same pose. With that, they're able to train it. And all these subsequent papers has utilized that methodology, that source really for training. And there have been various breakthroughs over the years, ranging from being able to using multiple garments, to using teacher-student networks, to multi-networks, to using recently diffusion methods like Midjourney,
generative AI.
Yeah, generative AI to really fine-tune the images. But even then, I'll see you an example of the progression over years. It's still not perfect, right? So there's the original Vuitton papers, and this is the source, this is the clothing image. As you can see over the years, this is how the results have progressed. One of the major difficulties with all these things has been the pose of the actual person. So for example, if this person here has their arm up, the model struggled to be able to synthesize that. And even the most recent ones, it's hard. You can see all these different artifacts in how it comes about.
And I just want to add, like, even if you do use these existing AR solutions, like, what we talked about on Snap or 010 or others, they're usually great when you're in this, this is called A pose,
right,
or T pose.
Right.
And so when it gets to you being natural, or upload an image that you already like or have, that's where the challenges come in. And so the goal over the years has been, one, getting this arms and this type of different poses right, and not having to limit the user, because you want to enhance the customer experience. You don't want to necessarily make them to take the picture right away. So if they can figure this out, for the user to have just any image uploaded and see it on themselves, it's easier and it's better. So that's what they're trying to do, because otherwise you have to give a very specific instructions to the customer and hope that they will follow it. The other aspect was the patterns. As you can see,
yes.
In the third row from the bottom, the pattern has been always a challenge to get it right, because with this type of GAN models, they're basically trying to fit different parts of the body, and the pattern doesn't come out right. And similar to what you see with Midjourney and stuff like that, you don't necessarily get all the words right. If you say write Vogue, it's gonna get a mixed version. I hope that Midjourney 6 has fixed that, but that has been one of the challenges. The other challenge was when you have more than one piece of clothing. So typically these all have been trained on upper body items, and less when it's like pants and shirt. And again, the examples we mentioned earlier, like Zikit and Forma, that both have been acquired, they were pretty good at this mix and match. But almost other companies, they were all having challenges with that. What else, Philip, has been a challenge?
Yeah, so essentially the underlying issue between all these models has been this image segmentation issue. So in order to create this synthetic data set here, you can see that you use this technique called image segmentation to parse out the various parts of an image. For example, where's the hair, where's the face, where's the garment, where's the hands, legs, etc. The issue is that image segmentation is still not quite perfect. Even when we're on Zoom and things like this, the artifacts that you see where your background ends and you begin, there is some weirdness there. And that happens in this when you're creating the synthetic data set.
So and it's also challenging on what data set they have trained it. So one of the challenging use cases, and you have probably heard the stories about face recognition, and similarly in the virtual try, it's all like when you have darker skin tones, because there haven't been enough data sets created off of those skin types, lack of diversity and inclusion. So they usually have problems also with those type of skin tones. So you're not going to see the outcome, or a lot of times they don't even being seen. They're not even being seen by the camera, which is really sad. But yeah, these are all different use cases and different challenges. And as you can see, some of these poses are not even straight. You could be, tilted to the right or left, or, different directions. And these are all challenges. Or if I have my hair on my shoulder, this is not necessarily going to get it right, especially AR. That's even worse in terms of getting it right.
Yes, because you have to imagine that in order to get the pose right, and then how the clothes drape and all these things, is not only does the image need to be manipulated and warped in a way to match the user's pose, but you also, the engine, the model needs to understand the physics of how the changing pose affects the garment. So there's a lot that actually needs to be unpacked in order to synthesize this final image. And the thing is that it's unpredictable. And even things like a lot of these models, they've been trained, these ones, mostly on women wearing tops, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why Google in their Virtual Try-On, that's why they're limited to that. But as soon as you try adding, for example, males or pants or other types of garments like dresses, things become hard. One technique that I found that may work for this is, instead of creating one large model that will be able to handle all types of input clothes and person, what we really need to do is segment out and create specialized models for each type. For example, when you upload an image, the first model identifies what what person it is, and also what type of image clothing item it is. Then based on deducing that, then it calls the appropriate model for handling that. For example, what we worked on before were dresses. So I created a data set over 60,000 pairs by scraping the web. This is back in 2019, to create a specialized data set of people wearing dresses. And we trained that. And it worked kind of okay back then. It might work better now with these new techniques. But the thing is that that's probably something we'd have to do, is we have a model for dresses. So you identify a person wearing a dress.
Yeah, kind of like what we see with ChatGPT. There are more and more specialized, vertical focused type of solutions that have to be used. But again, there is a challenge of data gathering, and that's why companies like the Perfect Corp were successful by going B2C first, gathering the data, and then going B2B. But thanks to generative AI, it seems like this data creation has become simpler as well. But yeah, that's kind of like high level. Is there any high level tech points that you want to share, Philip?
Yeah, I think this is still at the foundation stage, because the core of just being able to generate a realistic and accurate synthetic image is still not quite there yet. Because once you have that, then you have other things like being able to use prompt to edit the image, to change the image, and also to be more aware of sizing. And what this paper
like one example I want to mention is that we were doing bridal industry. And so, you could be wanting to plan for your event, and you want to change the background. You want to have that with multiple people.
Right.
What if their whole bridal party wants to all see how everything looks together? And so, again, virtual try-on right now is still more on the individual basis. And the background change has become easier, obviously, but there are several, like if I want to now see other items in there too, like, okay, what if I'm gonna try a furniture and then sit on the furniture and change the pose of my uploaded image? So the more you want this to be real, the more challenging obviously it gets.
It's going to be, exactly. Yeah, and I think in order for this to really be viable, I think there still needs to be a couple of breakthroughs, and especially in terms of the warping technique, to be able to get the pattern correct, and also the physics, in order to be able to really solve this pose issue, because those two are really the major issue behind this. After you get that, then we can focus more on all the extras, like the prompting, the editing, the scenarios, as Nico just suggested, and the other types of customization, right?
Yep. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now I want to quickly touch on some of the challenges other than what we spoke about. The other part is like for these data sets to be trained and processed, there's a lot of computational power and resources required. So it's not an easy, quick fix type of solution.
Just to give an idea, Nico, like when we were training our data sets back then with 60,000 images, it took about 2 days with 8 GPUs, pretty powerful GPUs, to create a single iteration of the model for them to us evaluate. So you can imagine that each time you tweak the model, you change something like this, you have to spend 2 days worth of computing power and wait those 2 days, then you can evaluate it. Right.
And that's just on the processing, but also I remember we did tagging and labeling. And so what we mean by that is that when there's a picture of me, someone needs to go in and say, this is a top, this is a bottom, this is the type of clothing, this is the type of person, this is the pose they are in. Like all of this needs to be taught to the machine, and that's the machine learning. And so that itself is a manual, resource intensive solution. Challenge, but also there are better solutions, more and more coming out when you have trained another model to be able to identify and then label.
I think that's what's been happening more is that these recent papers and especially data sets. So this study was made using a standardized data set across all. That's how I was able to evaluate all of them against the standard. But newer data sets, I see they're using automated tagging to be able to identify these parts, which does improve the generation.
Good. So it has been improving, but still it's a kind of resource intensive solution, and that's why for brands to use it, there needs to be some investment done upfront, and usually in the form of subscriptions. There's a setup fee and stuff, but there's also subscription that needs to be paid. And the other common challenge is the user experience. Like a lot of these tech have been developed in behind the closed doors in universities, and they're usually neglecting the fact that this needs to be done by a customer that is probably laying on their couch, drinking wine, and sorting through the websites for buying some impulse items, impulse purchases. And usually that user will have inertia and get up, go take off what they're wearing, put on a tight fitting clothing, go turn on the camera, position the camera right. And, now some people have privacy concern. Do I want to, go in my undergarment and take a picture or video? What I want to share, what I don't want to share. And like some of these examples that we have seen before, they ask you to do certain things, like go 360 and then go left and right. Like they make you do a whole bunch of things to just give you a simple outcome. And that friction is not something that the e-commerce customer is necessarily looking for or used to. So the incentive was not there the time that we were really working with brands. And I feel like with metaverse solutions, these type of solutions can be a little bit more convincing, because now you have other reasons to want to do it. I was meeting with one of my LinkedIn connections. Her name is Charlene, and she was showing me, Charlene Nichols, and she was showing me her metaverse solution. And she is a founder of another company, Eyewear Artwalk, and they have different websites and different solutions where you can actually try on, optical items and glasses and so on. And they have incorporated that into the metaverse. So when you are creating your avatar or going to these metaverse spaces, you have more incentive to want to scan yourself, because maybe you want to have a more realistic avatar. So I think there's more hope into user adoption of these technologies in the future, and also Gen Z being more open to sharing their data and sharing their images and having fun with it. And they're already doing that on Snapchat. So it is going to be easier the more time passes for this reason, and technology is obviously improving. But previously that was quite a challenge. The other thing, more specifically on the privacy concerns, is this type of new laws that have come out. And, we're going to talk about that a bit, because it is quite concerning. So, biometric basically means all sorts of measurements and analysis of our characteristics. And this type of like image that we upload or take, or videos, or all sorts of things that we provide to these companies, these are bound by law, by like certain privacy laws. And there are already there are already states that have put together different privacy laws. And I'm going to share my screen and show you a map of how dominant this has become. So that was quite interesting to see that more and more states are becoming conscious of these privacy concerns. So this is a map of biometric privacy law and that are being passed or has passed. So as you see, Illinois, Texas, and Washington are they already have legislations that are regulating private entities to collect or use biometric information. And a very strong one, and the black, as far as I know, means they did not pass in 2023, and the blue means active legislation. So it's interesting that these things are happening. I think it's important for you guys to be informed about this, and we're gonna talk briefly about how this have been impacting brands adopting these solutions. So what these laws mean, one of the most prominent one is Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act, or abbreviation is BIPA. With BIPA, you are supposed to inform you're required to inform the individual in writing that you're collecting their biometric data. You have to state the purpose of the data collection and how long you're going to be holding it. And you have to obtain a written consent before collecting the data. So as you can see, it's pretty strict, and it's been kind of challenging for brands and retailers to adopt this. So some example of that is Estee Lauder. So do you want to tell us what happened with Estee Lauder?
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. So basically, what was happening is that the plaintiff,
so someone from Illinois,
right, somebody from Illinois, while using their browser in Illinois, alleged that they Estee Lauder violated this BIPA Act. And what it came down to was that the court made this distinction between something called a click wrap versus a browser wrap, which is basically getting the consent of the user to their policy.
And for me to explain a little bit, so click wrap is when you are like proceeding in an app or website, and they say, check this box to agree, and you don't really read it. Most people don't really read it. That's click wrap agreement. The other one is called browse wrap. Browse wrap is like those that make you actually scroll through to the end and read that, and then click the box. And
well, there's no clicking. After browser wrap is passive, so that's the thing.
Oh, that's a passive.
So that's one where it doesn't need user interaction. It basically, by using the website, you're assuming consent. And the court said that because this policy and all these things were embedded in so many after so many layers, and after you scroll all the way down, that it wasn't sufficient in order for it to meet that browse wrap requirement, right?
So browse wrap is the one that you basically kind of like the cookies thing that you have. It's like by default of using a website.
Right.
Cool. So then basically that wasn't sufficient, and by BIPA law that you basically provided this requirement. And so they were not meeting that requirement. And then the other part was that it was a negligent violation, and it wasn't that big of a damage for the plaintiff. And so the damages or the outcome of this was that they only had to pay $1,000 in statutory damages, right?
For each damage. I don't know how many damages they claimed, but yeah, 1,000 for each.
Instead of 5,000, which would be if they were reckless or intentionally violating it. And so that was interesting. So more and more people have have done lawsuits at Illinois for beauty, makeup, fashion stuff. And another example was Louis Vuitton. And Louis Vuitton was using a third-party solution called Fitting Box. So then Louis Vuitton, kind of, when this lawsuit happened, they said that this wasn't us, this was this other company.
They try to pass it on.
Yeah, and then the court says no, you were the one who were encouraging the user to do this.
Right.
So that wasn't the good answer. And the other thing was that another lawsuit was with Dior, when Dior was doing that for sunglasses. And what's interesting with sunglasses is that there is kind of an exception for this BIPA law, or exemption, that if you have information captured from a patient in a healthcare setting, then it's fine. And then the plaintiff said that, first of all, this wasn't a patient. I wasn't a patient. It was a non-prescription sunglasses. And also, it was not in a healthcare setting. It was in a luxury website. And so when they shared that with the courts really didn't buy into that, and they went with what Dior said, because according to FDA, sunglasses are for protection of the health and from sun damage and stuff. And so they actually could, win the case. And so that was very interesting. And there have been other ones with Pandora, and several types of lawsuits. Wella is another one that is for the hair care. So very interesting how these regulations are kind of limiting certain companies. Oh, another thing that they were saying is that a lot of these companies are global companies. They're not necessarily operating in Illinois alone. But court didn't buy into that either, and said, you're trying to sell it or apply it to people who live in Illinois, similar to the laws that California has. No matter where your headquarters is, you have to follow California privacy laws, California, all the different laws that it has. And so, same thing. So it's very important for you to think about all of this when you're adopting these solutions, and whether consult with a lawyer in this regard, or do your research and analyze these challenges, and make sure you have all things covered when you are offering this type of solutions. And as you have seen what we talked about, there are only 3 states that have already done it. And I think Europe probably has a more strict policy as well. We didn't really deeply look into it, but I recommend you guys checking it out, because EU is always much more strict about all of things privacy related. So just make sure that you have all of these things covered. You are informing and communicating with your user. And I think more and more people, when you're actually communicating with them, especially younger generation, they understand that they are getting real value from you. They will be more than happy to provide the data to you. So it's about communication and consent, which we are all about. And so it's very exciting. Just to summarize what we talked about, really beneficial solution, virtual trying, to increase the confidence and enhance the user experience in virtual or digital settings of purchase. And it applies to various industries, mostly fashion, makeup, furniture, and optical industries. And then the other thing is that you have to make sure you're incorporating the insights related to your specific industry, because otherwise you're going to be missing very important points that will prevent the companies and individual users from adopting it. And lastly, make sure that you have the regulations covered, and you are putting all the required steps in place to not have to deal with these legal lawsuits. And we're happy that you stayed with us until the end. We will continue informing and educating you with the latest and greatest in emerging tech and immersive experiences. And if you guys need more help, more than the depths that we provided, feel free to reach out on DMs or comments, and we're happy to support you in your journey of adopting these solutions. And join us again next week at 2 p.m. EST on the Emergence Show. Again, Happy New Year, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year.
Take care. Bye.